On behalf of the National Career Development Association, welcome to the NCDA webinar series. This session is titled Taking a Leap, How to Start and Thrive in Private Practice. I'm Melissa Venable, NCDA Director of Professional Development, and I want to share just a few tips before we get started. During the webinar, please keep your microphone muted. You may use the chat for comments and questions. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording link will be posted on the NCDA website and the YouTube channel after the session, and I will also email the link to the recording to everyone who's registered. This program is approved for 1 hour of continuing education credit, and for those of you that are NCDA members, that credit will be automatically added to your account profile. So at this time, it is my pleasure to welcome and introduce the session moderator. That is Dr. Courtney Warnsman. Dr. Warnsman is the NCDA trustee for private practice, business and industry, and agencies, and she's also in private practice at Austin Career Connections in Austin, Texas. Courtney, thank you for being here, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Before I dive in, everyone, let me tell you, when we were doing our run through this morning, we have people who are in icy parts of the world right now, so we were having a few technical difficulties. If y'all start to notice things on your end, because we won't be able to see it on our end, would you please put in the chat that things are going wonky or the whole thing is breaking up, and we'll go from there. So hopefully we will have smooth sailing through the ice and snow. We'll just ski right through and all will be good. Welcome, everybody. My name is Courtney Warnsman. I am the trustee for private practice, business industry, and agencies for NCDA. And I'm super excited to be doing this topic. Of all the things that people bring to sessions, whether it's Tuesday talks or to the constituency meeting at conference, we always have so many people say, I'm thinking about private practice, or I'm in private practice and would love to find out more. And so we put together, let's call it a little mini series. If you happen to join the recent podcast with Katie O'Malley, you heard her thought process and the thought process behind deciding to go into private practice. So today we're going to shift from thinking about it to actually making that leap. We have a great panel. I'm going to read the bios so I don't miss anything. We have Amanda Chenkin, who is a licensed professional counselor in Colorado and Maryland and a certified career counselor. She's been in the career development field for 20 years. The last 8 years have been focused on career counseling, specifically working with clients who are exploring who they are and how they want to author their stories. Amanda walks alongside clients who examine and process the internal and external stories and systems that have kept them from living unapologetically. She's an active member of the American Counseling Association and NCDA. Amanda's in private practice and the owner of Choice Career Counseling based in Baltimore, Maryland. So welcome, Amanda. We also have Conquaya James, who currently serves as co-chair of NCDA's Ethics Committee. She's been a board-certified counselor for 20 years, has served on the NCDA Ethics Committee since 2008, and has held leadership positions within a diverse range of university career centers. Conquaya owns Careers by Design, LLC in Macon, Georgia, where she loves gifting preteens, teens, and young adults with the confidence to take the lead in designing a career that helps close the gap to their ideal lifestyle. Our third panelist is Katie O'Malley, who is a career coach and workplace strategist with 20 years of professional experience serving the nonprofit, corporate, and education sectors. Across these workplaces, Katie noticed her strengths and values consistently steered her toward the support and development of others. In 2012, Katie translated this observation into action, earning a master's degree in counseling and board certification in coaching. Since 2018, Katie has worked alongside hundreds of individual, team, and organizational clients as the founder and principal coach of Encourage Coaching. Founded with the noble mission of providing exceptional, financially accessible coaching services to Chicago area professionals, Encourage Coaching has grown to support individuals and businesses from coast to coast, as well as in the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, Katie wasn't able to be with us here live today. She'll actually tell you why in her video in just a moment. She did kindly give us sort of an intro video to open the conversation for us. Katie is the one who we had the discussion with during the podcast for her journey into how she made the decision to get into private practice. with the technology issues, we're hoping this is going to work. Again, if things start to go wonky, please let us know in the chat. But I'm going to show a short video from Katie, and then Amanda and Conquaya and I will jump into some conversation with tips and tricks and all kinds of things to consider if you are in private practice or looking to start one. So let me share screen here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie O'Malley, founder and principal coach of Encourage Coaching, coming to you asynchronously from Chicago, Illinois. I am so bummed that I cannot join the webinar call today, but rest assured, I am going to give you a little bit of my story, some lessons learned along the way for all of you who are on this call looking to make the leap into private practice. One of the things that I like to share right out of the gate is even if you are saying, I am a coach in private practice, you also have to start thinking about yourself as a business owner. And I'm not sure about you, but this took me a long time to come around to, especially as someone who's driven by the value of altruism and spent most of my career working in nonprofit and higher education. But with that, what I always tell folks who are looking to start their own coaching business is to start before you are 100% ready. When I first launched Encourage Coaching in 2018, I did not have any programs. I did not have any packages. I did not have a marketing scheme. I did not have a niche. But what I did have was a strong desire to make sure that exceptional and financially accessible career development services were accessible to everyone, not just folks who attend exceptional universities or elite business schools or work for companies with really deep pockets. So with that, the two things that I did before I was really ready was one, got myself an LLC, which I know the brilliant team that's going to follow me will talk about, to protect myself as an individual, but to also protect the business. I also built my own website on Wix, kept it really clean, kept it really simple, and then just said, you know, if I build this, will anyone come? And with that, being willing to be adaptable, agile, and build as you go to meet the needs of the clients that are coming your way, which may not be the segment of folks that you originally set out to pursue. With that in mind, the next thing that I think is really important to know is when those clients start to come your way, and I promise you they will. Not all of them will necessarily be paying clients right out of the gate or reaching that full fee that you've set for yourself, but they will come. And when they do, the best advice that I can give to you is treat every client like they are your only client. Treat them like gold. And I promise you, in doing that, not only will this client continue to return to you, but they are going to refer you to people in their network. And that is the most important thing, to start getting in front of and working alongside as many folks as possible before you start with developing or designing any kind of marketing plan. I know for a lot of you out there, if you're anything like me, I love design. I love creativity. I want you to focus on coaching first and being that credible, reliable, trusted source and advisor for your clients. Next up is tapping into what is called your dormant network. So these are folks who are connections on LinkedIn or other social media platforms that you haven't talked to in a while. Not for any other reason than it's hard to keep track of the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 plus folks that might be in your network because life, work, family, kids. For me today, divorce court, just throwing that out there. That's why I can't be with you today. But tapping into your dormant network and actually reaching out with them to start a conversation. I'm not talking about doing broadcasts of, hey, I have this new business, come my way. It's doing that individual outreach and doing what LinkedIn was originally designed for, which is using it as that digital Rolodex. Finally, it took a long time for me to start establishing a fee structure that really demonstrated the value that I bring to the table. Again, going back to the fields that I came out of, nonprofit and higher education, and wanting to be of service to everyone. But if you are going to break away and be your own boss and hopefully start to hire folks and employ folks, we have to start challenging ourselves to recognize the value of the knowledge that we have and the way that we positively impact people's lives. So I never would have gotten there if I didn't hire a business coach. And so for all of you out there who are hesitant, the thing I would suggest is if you want someone to hire you as a coach, my gosh, why wouldn't you hire a coach in an area that you need support with? And for me, that was the business side. And it really shifted my mindset to start thinking about the income and revenue that was coming in as a way to measure my positive impact, not as dirty money, which is how I thought about money for a really long time before starting to work with a business coach. So with all of that, I know the team that is going to be taking you through the next 45, 50 minutes is going to expand on all of these ideas, go really deep. If you have any questions or you'd like to follow up with me in the future, I'm always open to that. Sharing is caring. It always comes back around when we can be generous with our time. So you can reach me at katie@encouragecoaching.org. Connect with me on LinkedIn, follow me on Instagram, and I hope to see you out there in the field. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for doing this good work that helps people to get onto the career paths that are going to bring them joy both in work, but also elevate their life outside of work. Have a great webinar.
I'm so disappointed that Katie can't be here because she brings such great energy and positivity to everything we do. We're going to talk about a lot of the things that Katie brought up, but what I'd like to start with, I know that when I came into private practice, it's that first client, that first client who is actually going to be a private pay client. One of the things that everyone on the panel has in common is that they all started someplace different doing career development in a different sort of role before moving into private practice. So, Amanda, what was that first client like for you? How did you find that person? What was that whole experience like?
So, I guess I'll start. So I opened my private practice as like my part-time side whatever gig in 2017. And so the first person that came to me, I think and I was relatively fresh out of graduate school. And so I think somebody like shared my name with like a friend or something. And they wanted help with just like I think it was like some resume stuff, some like kind of career planning. And I remember I think my fee was really low. Like I think I maybe charged them like $100 or something. But I remember thinking like, oh crap, somebody paid me for like all this information that I have that is outside of like somebody saw value in the information I have and was willing to exchange their money for it. And we all, as Katie mentioned, right, like we all have our money stories and like all the stuff that comes with how we deal with it. But I sort of think like, oh, this is really cool. And my goal was starting with like one day I would like it to be my full-time gig, and that didn't happen until 2022. So it took a while. But yeah, that first time, that first moment of like, oh, somebody thinks like this is kind of a cool feeling. And not in like a dirty, like, ooh, I'm taking money away, but like after year, so I guess the other part of I should share is most of my career has been spent in nonprofits and higher education. So like not well paid roles asked to do a whole lot. So somebody was paying me to do what they asked, like, do something with them for a fair, like what at the time I would have said a fair amount of money, like that was a fair exchange, and that was really like the ooh moment for me.
Yeah. I think we all go through the ooh moment. So Conquea, what was your first client experience like?
Man, I think I need to share a little bit of like what Amanda was sharing as well with the background, just a little bit. Just to let you all know, I do have 16 years. That was whole 16 years in higher ed, working middle management types of positions and career counseling and things like that. The first 2 years I include are my actual training that I received from Florida State as well. So in career counseling specifically. So all that time, you know, you're usually working your 40 hours, you go in 8 to 5, whatever it is. So with me, what happened was, and then I guess the other thing too is the way that I earn money. So for me, I have subcontracts, I have a contract, and I earn money through doing presentations as well. And so for me, the one that I consider my first client is actually the private pay. So I was getting money through contracts, but the private pay is the one that hit me like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. Like it's actually working. But that all came about through word of mouth as well. And through, I rent a co-working space. And so there's lots of different individuals in the co-working space doing their own types of business. And this one gentleman in particular, he would always stop by my door. Hey, how's it going? What you up to? And I would just throw out little nuggets about what it is that I do, how I do it. And he went away for a while and he came back, and it turned out that he started working in one of our local high schools. And he had, for some reason, he had the opportunity to administer assessment to some of those students. And so he's coming back to me talking about his experience administering the assessment. And I was talking with him and I was like, oh, you know, I actually have some primary resources that I use with my clients. You know, I have access to those assessments that you were using. So I was able to educate them a little bit more on, you know, the different types of assessment. And when I did that, then he's like, oh, well, I want my children to come work with you. So that's how that happened. He had one of his daughters sign up with me, and then I met with 3 of his kids. So, but
It
that
is.
whole, yeah, getting the check, that one hit home for me too, because I haven't done packages yet either. So that was full pay. At that time it was 150 each session for our session. And everything's included, taxes, assessment, fees, all that's included in the fee. And we met about 9 sessions.
Yeah.
So
You know, it's interesting how with both of you, it's the clients sort of kind of landed in your lap,
mhm,
but at the same time, you had to intentionally put yourself in positions to have them land in your lap and to be having these conversations with people about what we do. Because let's face it, everybody in the profession, we know that we say, you know, I'm a career coach, I'm a career development professional, and people are like, oh, you're a recruiter. You know, we know there's so many misunderstandings about the work that we do. And both of you started to touch upon the money part. And I know this also gets into the whole idea of imposter syndrome. And one of the things that Katie said about, you know, if I build this, will anyone come?
mhm,
And, you know, my story into coming into private practice is a little bit different in that I had been working at the University of Texas doing academic and career counseling. And I, I was looking to make a change, and I hired a career coach. And after working with him for a little while and starting to get into all of the, you know, my career goals, I said, well, I want to do what you do, Keith. And he looked at me and he said, are you sure? But he worked in a small practice. There were 3 other people in it. And a couple weeks later, he said, hey, guess what? Dennis is retiring. You know, we are looking for another person to come into our practice. Well, Dennis retired and I took over his clientele. 20 plus years ago, here are these vice presidents and executive level people, and I'm this 38-year-old kid who has just been sent to Las Vegas to go get GCDF training to be able to work with these people. I'm like, who the heck am I? And so this business of bringing value. And so Conquea, how did you struggle some with that in terms of pricing and having people pay you for your expertise? And how did you help work yourself through that? Like that?
I'm shaking my head. I didn't struggle with that part. Part of the reason for it though is because I am a structured person. I'm a J on the MBTI, strong J. But so for me, what I did is I worked things out on paper. I came up with all of my living expenses that and debts that I had at the time. I worked everything out, and I literally said how many hours I wanted to work a day, which means once I calculated the living expenses, I also put in like what type of lifestyle I do want for myself in the future. So I calculated everything. I literally did. And that helps you to break down, like if you know what your target is, then you can do a better job of saying, well, if I only want to work a certain amount of hours, how many clients is that? And then divide the information up by how many clients you want to take in. So I did drop my fee from the 150, but that was because I was in the forbearance program for the student loan forbearance. And so I knocked mine down because I'm no longer responsible for paying back student loans. So, my clients can benefit from that. I could have maintained it, but I was like, well, I don't need to meet that anymore.
Yeah.
So
This is such an important question, or it's probably the question that I am most often asked is, how much do you charge?
mhm.
And a couple of years ago, we did a survey with the group, and people were charging everything from $25 an hour to hundreds of dollars an hour, or even thousands of dollars for various packages.
Mhm.
And I know there's the struggle because we're in a helping profession and such. And Conquea, as an ethics person, how do you suggest that people look at the fee structure and such from an ethics perspective?
Yeah. And it also depends on the background that you're coming with as well. So I will just say for myself, I'm not licensed, but I am a board certified counselor. So I've been board certified for 22 years now. And so I do look back at the code as well. So the code talks about establishing the fees. It's actually in part A. So that you don't have to go very far into the code to look at that. But you do want to try to make sure that you're not like so out there, that you could potentially be harming the people that you are around, like in your community. And it also depends on who your clients are, where they're from. So I know for myself, I'm just now getting more locally involved. So I know that my fee for local is good. But when you think about using virtual services, I can reach people, further away, and I can go higher on my fee if I wanted to, but I don't. I just maintain the same fee for everything. But again, it's just based on my needs as well. But the other thing that people can do when you're trying to figure out what type of fee you want to set, there's resources like Psychology Today. There's counselors, psychologists, therapists, they use Psychology Today. They put their profile in there. So if you wanted to see what other people in your area are charging, that would be a good way of doing it as well. Like looking at their fee structure and then looking at how many years of education they have and what their certifications or licenses are.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for that. And we jumped ahead to the fee structure, partially because it came up in the introduction part, but then also because it is an oft-asked question. But now let's take a step back to, okay, I'm going into private practice. When we were doing our preparatory meetings for the webinar, I asked the question, okay, so what do you do first? And Amanda got this look on her face that was kind of this quizzical thing. And she said, well, it depends. And so, Amanda, would you share with us what was going through your head as you struggled with it depends.
Yeah, on what to do first. Because I mean, it depends on like where you are in life, like what your goal for opening the business is, like, is the plan to have it be your, fully support you, and what does that look like? So I think the first part is really like, do I even want this? Right? Like, how do I want this business to fit into my life? I made the leap. I knew, well, I had some things happen, and in 2022, I moved from Colorado back to my home state of Maryland. And in that was, I want to do this all by myself, all full time, because quite frankly, I'm tired of trying to work for other people because I want to do it my way. So, because I think my way is the way I want to do it. And so like the first thing, there are the logistical parts, right? Like Katie mentioned, like registering your business with the state, opening a bank account, like those are the pieces you can do that like can stay dormant for a while until you've decided like what you want or how it's going to look for you. Steph and I lived in Fort Collins. And so yeah, so like, oh, what is the first thing? They're the things like registering bank account, and figuring out like what you're gonna need, how much are you gonna charge? Like Concoya, I sat down with like and figured out like how much I need to live my life the way I want to live it, and I charge accordingly. And I think again the mindset piece of like, well, we're helpers, we should be helping everyone. So then I come back to like the mission and vision of my business is to earn enough money to do all the volunteer and the pro bono stuff. So I'm going to charge what I need to charge to be able to do that. I don't know if that really answers. I feel like I tangented a little bit.
What is, when you think about mission and vision, do you have, Amanda, a particular demographic of client that you knew that you wanted to work with?
Yes. So my first answer is always I work with adults. And and more specifically, I really love working with like early mid to career. So like 20s, 30s, 40s if we're in age demographics. And folks who are really who have some like who have self-awareness and know that like I'm really stuck and I really know that I need support in figuring out how to get unstuck and how does work in my life. You know, though like maybe it's because it's a similar age to me. Exennial, elder millennial. So like I think there is the idea of like I'm working with people who maybe have had similar experiences in the workplace, and how do we work together to figure out what you need to do for yourself and your family.
So as we're starting the businesses, Concoya and Amanda, we have, and I know in Concoya's bio, she talks about working with preteens and teens and young adults and in doing their thing. But when you're looking at this as a business and you're wanting it to grow and maybe you're wanting it to become your full-time thing, how do you handle that situation where maybe a client comes to you who is not in your target demographic or is not someone who necessarily is a good fit for the kind of services that you would provide? How do you balance that? But I really want to grow my business but this may not be the right thing for either one of us. Concoya?
I will just say that if they really are not a good fit, that's what the referrals are for. So, when I was in my graduate program, that's one of the things that we learned. You keep your referrals and you know who you want to send where, depending on what the client it comes with. But oh my gosh. I blanked on the first part of your question. I just thought about what was the first part?
I blanked on my own question there. It was about deciding, when there's, you're trying to build your business and get more clients
Oh,
in,
yeah.
but here's a client who wants to work with you, but doesn't quite fit, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
handle that kind of decision.
Yeah, so that goes back towards defining your niche as well. So I know in the counseling realm, psychology realm, that one of the words that they use a lot is your niche. And so for me, I do like you said, I do like working with teens, but that whole niche is who you market to. That's easier marketing to teens versus marketing to college students versus marketing to adults. So for me, I haven't like formally started marketing, but but that's who you technically want to market to. But I will say last fall, I had more adults come to me, and I didn't turn them away. I just went on ahead and took them because I'm a career counselor at heart. I can work with anybody. I have the skill to work with anybody. But my niche, who I market to, is teens.
When we talk about marketing, this is another question that comes up a lot from people. What are the places, Amanda, or the strategies that you have found most successful in finding clients?
So when I decided that I was gonna this was gonna be my full-time thing, this is gonna be the business, the thing that like helps me pays my bills and all that, I knew that because of like my niche and like people don't always really know what career counseling is, that I was gonna build it through referrals, which is much like it's a much longer game, right? Like it's a lot of relationship building. I had lived like 10 years in Colorado. So even though Maryland was my home state, my professional network was across the country. So I've spent the last several years building very strategically a network. So and I'm also as a therapist, like I feel like I live in a lot of different worlds. And so really connecting and finding a network to start marketing. When you're thinking about like niche and like all of that stuff, there's lots of resources online, like some good worksheet kind of stuff to help you maybe put some of it down to help with like where you're gonna target. Um, Did I answer that fully, Courtney? I feel like I'm also in like a weird, like, I don't know, something's happening to my brain.
No, but what you just said, it's interesting because what was running through my mind was it's the stuff that we suggest that our clients do.
It is. It's totally what
It's
we
the
tell our clients to
networking, and
do.
it is determining their target careers and what are their goals. And, how many times have we said, we can coach the heck out of our clients, but then when it comes to our own business or our own goals, we tend to sometimes we get lost ourselves. And so I think everything that Amanda was saying, I was thinking, gosh, if we would just listen to ourselves and the way that we talk to our clients, it answers a lot of these questions for us, frankly.
Yeah.
As we think about the actual business piece of it, and y'all, this is not going to be the fun part to talk about, but there are some legal aspects of this, some paper aspects of it that we don't necessarily think about, especially if we've been working under someone else, such that we are under their liability insurance and all of those different things that we need to do to protect ourselves. So, Conquea, what are some of the legal aspects of this that you think that people need to keep in mind and to make sure that they set up as they're thinking about opening their business?
I was looking at the chat too. Somebody's co-signing. Well, I know that one of the things that I did is, and it goes back to that question about where do you get started? I'm going to show my notebook because, like I said before, I'm a researcher. I like to go research things and pull everything together, and I'm a hands-on, tangible type of person. So I like to print things out. I made a little bit of a notebook for myself. And I literally went to the IRS page. They have one for starting a business. So you always need to think of it. I broke it down into federal government, state government, National Career Development Association, NBCC, because I'm a certified counselor. So I pulled out information that all those different places already have. And also things like the small business development centers as well in different states. You have to check out your colleges and universities to figure out what those types of things are. But they're all going to tell you what it is that they want. They tell you in a different kind of way. And I think that's what gets people confused a lot. So I literally had to go ahead and print everything out. The start your business one, if you ever went to that site, it goes into some of the things that Amanda was talking about, like the business structure. Do you want to be an LLC or corporation, S Corp, C Corp? You know, it goes through all of the different options. But and then things like getting your EIN number for taxes. But when you think about this, the government, no matter which one it is, they want to get paid. They want to make sure that you're doing a legitimate business and that you're paying them. I look at all these different things like little birds in a nest when the babies are born and the mom and the dad come in to feed the baby, and all of a sudden you see everybody's mouths open up, they're chirping, everybody wants to get fed. That's the government to me. Everybody just wants to get fed. That's one of the ways that I think about it. You have to just fall into that kind of structure. And then thinking about the record keeping, this goes back to NCDA as well. And I will say that, you know, whether you look at the code or not, when you become a member of NCDA, you're agreeing to the code. It's just an automatic thing. So you want to, this is all in our code as well. Things about informed consent, what to put in it, fee structures in the code. The accounting piece, that's not in the code, but you do want to make sure that you're coming up with the accounting side of things as well and understanding more about taxes. The thing with this though is, you know, there's things that you can do for yourself, and then there's ways to consult other people. So that's why we talk about things like getting an attorney, getting an accountant, to help you manage the actual setup of these things. I've heard people talk about things like LegalZoom to help with like registering the business with the state, like through the Secretary of State office. I never use LegalZoom. I went to the Secretary of State office and I printed out the information. I put it in my notebook. And then I filed that information myself. And it was a lot cheaper than using LegalZoom or an attorney to do it for me. But basically I'm going to go back down to the paperwork part of it. Like with the informed consents and everything. That's all about just making sure you and your clients are on the same page. You know, you're leading them. You're the one that's responsible for your organization, no matter what happens, whether good things, positive things are happening, all the way down to maybe the client wants to report you. You're responsible for managing it all. So if you have it documented, they're looking at it, you go through your first session, like the intake session, and you're reviewing that informed consent. And they're agreeing to it, you know, you're basically going through your checks and balances. You're working from the same viewpoint at that point, and allowing you time to answer, like ask questions and things like that too.
So Conquaya, I actually heard you talking about two things, and and of course the dog. Apologies.
I don't hear.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't really hear the dog.
Apologies. If y'all weren't here, I would say something to the dog. Couple of things. I hear you talking from two different aspects here. One that is the law, okay? Yeah. And this, when Amanda had first talked about the it depends piece of things, that was talking about where you are geographically. So do look at federal law, state law, local law, all of those that are the true laws that have to be done from a business perspective.
And the IRS has it.
And the IRS has it. The other piece then is the ethics and the NCDA part and the consent and all of the forms and the intake forms that you have with clients. So I really think it happens on those two different levels. One that's the legal law of the land, and then the other that is the NCDA ethics stuff. For those of us who are not licensed counselors,
Mhm.
as I am not, and this would protect me. Will anybody protect me if I do something to this dog? For those of us who are not licensed counselors,
Mhm.
this is super important, even more important, because the licensed counselors, in order to get their licenses, have already had to do a lot of these things.
Mhm.
For those of us who are not licensed counselors, we need to cover ourselves at that same level that the licensed people do. Because
Well,
we don't have those. Go ahead, Amanda.
I think, can I jump in real quick?
Please
ahead.
do.
So I think so getting licensed has nothing to do with opening a business.
Right.
Right.
So to open a business, right, anyone can do it.
Right.
And we all basically have to do the same thing. We need EINs, we need to create the business through the state, whether that's LLC, PL, whatever the designation we want to do and register with the state.
Yeah.
Following like taxes, right? Like the legalities of like, here are the things you have to do to open a business, regardless of the type of business.
Mhm.
All of us, regardless of whether you're a counselor or a coach, liability insurance, like
Yeah.
coaches need liability insurance just like the rest of us, like counselors do.
Mhm.
Those are like, I think the core kind of bits that you need to just open a business, full stop.
Yeah.
And
Somebody-
then we get into like the ethical, like legal is like here, ethical is like best practice and what we should all be doing. And so I don't know if that like helps break it out a little bit.
Thank you.
but-
I will,
think it
yeah,
does.
I will say the should be doing, it's more of a, these are things for you to look out for. Like even with the NCDA, the Code of Ethics, we don't have people who are going out there to make sure you're doing everything to the T, but the code is more of these are the higher standards. You can modify it how you need in order for you to do the work that you want to do and try to do it safely without harming yourself, harming your clients.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. It's not really you should do it, you got to do it.
And it's interesting because if I remember right, in one of our planning meetings, you said that NCDA's Code of Ethics is actually at a higher level than a lot of the ethics for other organizations and things like that. We hold our members to a very high level of ethics.
Yeah, but it's basically the reason we call it guidelines. They are guidelines to help you in how you practice.
Got it.
Guidelines. There was something else that you all mentioned, insurance. Someone asked a question about additional insurance or certifications and things like that and licenses. So it goes back to your state, like with different states, some of the counties want you to have a license to a business license, not a practice license. And then also when it comes to insurance, depending on if you're working from home or if you are doing a co-working space like I'm doing, or if you have a whole building to yourself or something like that, then other insurances come into play as well. So like slip and fall, if you have somebody come into your actual building and they slip and fall, you want to have insurance for that.
Yeah.
So yes, to answer your question, there are some instances where you need to have additional types of coverage.
I think one of the things also that Amanda said during our planning meeting is it just had to do with do your research, because wherever we are, all of those things are going to be different. So this is the way you set up the business and all of that is not going to be a one size fits all. It's going to depend on your geographic area and things like that. And so it's important to know the specifics to the area that you're looking at. One of the questions that I did see come up in chat that again comes up a lot is how do you structure what is your fee structure? So is it hourly? Is it packages? How do you put all that together? Or what are the actual business offerings that people can purchase from you as their coach? Amanda.
That's funny because I'm just redoing some of that because some things have just evolved for me and how I want to talk about the things that I offer. So I'll use this as good practice. So I do offer just like hourly, like a regular therapeutic 50-minute hour. Um, and that's fine. Last year I had a couple clients ask me like, hey, can we just meet for like 2.5 hours and really like work on some stuff? And I was like, well, sure. It turns out I really prefer to work that way. Like I would much rather like let's sit down for like a chunk of time, really get into it, and then like we'll just meet a few more times or whatever that looks like. So I've kind of revamped and I'm calling them like accelerated hourly plans. I was using the word package, but that's not quite what it is. Basically, people can purchase like a set number of hours, and then we decide how we're going to divide up those hours. So, like I sell them in like 3, 6, and 12-hour plans. And you can use them one at a time. That's fine. But more often than not, the clients who are attracted to that like want to meet for like 2 hours at a time. In the therapy world, we would call that they're also known as intensives. So like I've called it like intensive style career counseling. And so that's something I'm like working on. It's actually something that's for this year, my focus for marketing more because I like to do it more. So the kind of if you build it, will they come? I hope so. So far they have, like it came out of client requests. So yeah, so that's how I structure. I'm not shy about talking about pricing. It's all on my website. I charge $2.25 an hour. And like that's kind of it. So it really depends on like, so I would say how you prefer to work and how you talk about that and how clients will then, be attracted as the ideal like best fit clients will probably be attracted to that because of what you're putting out there and how energetic you are.
I think it gets back to one of the beginning conversations we had about, as you're thinking about opening your practice, what do you want that practice to look like? And then how do you wrap the fee structure and all of that around that? There is a question in the chat, and I was going to ask as well about, do you offer a discount based on the number of hours that they purchase?
It's a slight discount, just to make it enticing, but like it's maybe 10% discount for those hours. But I am raising so if you're interested in the plan package, like I'm doing things differently this year, which is a 90-minute initial session that's like full fee. And then the plan hour package. And it's a really small discount.
Yeah.
Quaya, how about you?
The way that I've gone about setting fee, for me, I just have my hourly rate, and then I have not thought about packages per se, but I have thought about more so small groups, so 8-week groups at a certain rate. And I do get charged for public speaking as well and workshops. So I saw that question from Mike. He's asking about that. But one of the ways that I come up for what the charge for doing the speaking engagements is, you can do things like look at your hourly rate and how much time it's going to take you to prepare for that workshop and the travel costs for the workshop if you're spending the night or whatever, the meals. So that's what you do is you have to total everything up, and then that's what you're presenting to whoever's requesting you to speak. And then sliding scale, that is something that I have been thinking about, and I'm thinking about going through. I have a cousin who's in education, and he has a nonprofit as well. So I've been thinking about using his nonprofit to help with the sliding fee. So basically maintain my full fee structure, but depending on the client's needs, I would go back and slide the scale for them, but then still get paid through the nonprofit.
Yeah.
The full
You know,
fee.
when we talk about packages and such, I think, most of the clients that I think we'd like to work with are the ones that you're going to take through that full process of discovery and branding and getting them to their dream job. But I think we also have clients come to us who, hit you up on LinkedIn and say, hey, I really need a resume and a LinkedIn profile. And so I do, most of my stuff is hourly, but I do have some packages that are like a branding package or, an interview prep or something like that. And you figure that out. The other thing on the speaking engagements, if we tie this back to marketing, so I think depending on what it is that you're being asked to do, in some cases, it is absolutely pay me to give this thing. But I know I've done some things that are, for job search groups and things that I do pro bono, and it's amazing how many clients you wind up getting from giving a little bit of free services away. So I think I think it works in both directions, and you just have to figure out what's the right direction for you. Amanda, do you do speaking engagements and such as well?
I don't. So I do not love like that's not my jam. So I don't offer workshops or like group stuff. Yeah, it's just like I get anxiety just like thinking about having to do that. So no, that's not my jam. But what I do like to offer, I really like, as you might be able to tell, super narrative. So like I really like the individual one-on-one like storytelling aspect. The other things that I'm trying to do to to kind of add diversity to my income is I really love supervision and peer consultation. So I'm trying to like figure out how to do more of that. But I love all of you who do workshops. I love referring them to you all. Not my jam.
Yeah. So I want to leave time for questions here at the end, but a question came up that I want to make sure that we address in the chat, which is, do any of us take insurance for the work that we do?
You can't. Career counseling is not covered by insurance. It's a Z code. If you're familiar with the ICD-10 codes, it's a Z code. It's not covered. And I know that there are licensed therapists who will do it, whatever, that's their jam, that's whatever on that, like that's them. At least that's what I've seen in my local kind of groups. But career counseling on its own is not covered by insurance. I do not accept insurance even for my mental health side of things.
And that's another reason why they might start a different business that offers coaching.
Yeah. So as we wrap up here, I want to do just a little ping pong round here. And I'm going to ask our panelists just a couple of questions about tools and resources that they like. So, favorite scheduling tool, Amanda?
So everything is through my Google Workspace. It's like I have like the most basic one. It's like $10 a month, and that's my scheduling. I also have that's my personal like workspace and scheduling. I use that integrated calendar. They finally did something like Calendly where you can embed a link and people can like schedule. So I use that for the free consultation calls I offer. And then once people become a client, I have an EHR and I use Sessions Health. And that provides like the telehealth platform that's HIPAA compliant and all that stuff. But Google Workspace can also be HIPAA compliant. If you need that, you just sign the BAA.
Conquea, favorite payment processing tool?
I just use my EHR. So Jane is what I'm using currently. And I can note all kinds of payments, whether it's credit card, I can do cash payments through it. And the bank account, you're linking your bank account to the system as well. So even when I get cash payments I will either just write a check to myself or I go deposit that money into my business account and send it straight to, sorry, deposit the money to my personal account and I'll send it to my business account. So I have everything documented.
Got it. For both of you, if there was one tool that you would say that every single person going into private practice, one business tool that they should have, what is it?
Well, hold on. Somebody is asking for
Oh.
clarification about what a electronic health record is. So
Okay.
yeah, EHR. We basically use that to bring our clients in. We can the client, you can schedule appointments with them, you can collect payment. That's also a secure place to maintain all that information. Even client records, notes. I put all my client notes into my system as well.
And
Thank
I've heard
you.
of coaching focused ones. I can't think of any names, but I've heard of coaches. Like there are ones that are not as locked down for HIPAA compliance that coaches use, but I can't think of any.
It's not just for somebody asked another question. It's not just for licensed individuals. Anybody can use the EHR, Simple Practice or Jane. Anybody can use them.
Simple Practice is the one that I've heard a lot of coaches using.
Yeah,
It's not the best though.
right.
Got
They're
it.
going through some issues.
All right. So best tool in your toolkit, Amanda,
Like for business
for
stuff.
business.
I think the best tool in my toolkit for business related stuff is my network that I've cultivated. I have a group that I meet with every Friday. We're therapists, like counselors, kind of across a huge spectrum of areas and where we are in our business. And we bring all of our business stuff. We share, we help each other through like pretty much everything business related. It's a safe space to talk about like our business stuff, and we talk about pricing and all kinds of things.
Awesome. Perfect. Conquea,
That
favorite
is a really
tool.
good question because I'm like, one tool? I'm about like, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no. Did we lose Conquea?
Sorry about
There
that.
it is.
But yeah, I was gonna say I'm about like Amanda when it comes to the networking piece. One of the things that you'll realize is communication. Communication is key. So just being able to talk about what it is that you do. But I like my career assessments and I like career theory. So I make sure I always am utilizing my favorite. I'm just gonna put it out there, cognitive information processing theory, also called CIP, but I like using theory in my work.
Perfect. I am scrolling through. We just have a couple minutes left. I'm scrolling through. Please put any questions in the chat if you haven't already. I'm scrolling through to see if there is anything that we have not yet covered there.
I'll answer the NCDA networking, like regional networking groups.
Okay.
NCDA has regional associations. So if you haven't tapped into those, that would be one good place to start. Go to your state CDA.
Yep.
Yeah.
In Georgia, I have Georgia Career Development Association.
Yep. Tap into your state CDA. And we have a lot of people in our constituency, folks, who are leaders of their state CDAs, but definitely worth looking at and being involved in a little bit different level there. All right. Follow-up session webinar to address assessment used by private practitioners. So we are always, y'all, we are always looking for topics of webinars and podcasts. And if there is anything that you are interested in hearing about, or if you would like to be on a webinar panel or do a podcast, please reach out to us. We absolutely, we're filling up the hub with all kinds of great resources for our membership. So absolutely. All right, with that, I believe it is 1 o'clock Central where I am. thank y'all again so much for sharing your lunchtime with us. Thank you to Amanda and Conquea and to Katie, wherever you are, for your expertise and your wisdom on all of this. And feel free to reach out to any of us anytime. We are more than happy to help because we've all been there. So have a great day, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.